Greetings. We are doing a reading from the Book of Dream Names, a Sigil Oracle deck, on the equinox of 2020. This is March 19th. All right, we're going to get started by the first thing I do when I do a reading with the Book of Dream Names is I'm going to lay out all the cards into 8 different piles representing the different magical focuses, the different tribes, if you would, which are kind of explained on the back of the card. The top one being the Solar Tribe, and it's the Rainbow Tribe, and that's Will Magic. Then you have the Black Tribe, which is Death Magic, and Saturn Energy, which is limitations and society and such. Then you have Blue Magic, which is Jupiter. That's growth, and that's wealth. That's external growth, growth without. Then you have Venus, which is love. Green Magic, which is devotion to something outside yourself. And then you have the Lunar Magic, which is ego magic, yellow magic, ego magic, which this is your self-image, which is reflected within yourself, the image you cast within yourself. Purple Magic is sex magic, which is creation, and that's that internal release and internal creation, internal limits. Orange, Mercury, which is gnosis and learning and academic, and that's an internal growth. That's as you learn from your experience and you grow within. Then you have Mars, which that's red, which that's a devotion within, like the devotion within the tribe, country, self. It's war magic. This is also how well you are taking care of yourself and the perfection of your self-will. So I'm going to first put them all out into these 8 piles. And this is kind of a shuffling up as they go into the 8 piles. They'll be shuffled around. And I'm going to deal it all 72 cards into these 8 piles. And that, as I said, this kind of jumbles it all up. Now, the Book of Dream Names is a Sigil Oracle deck, and each card is going to have a letter and a glyph. And it's also going to have a planetary sign, which is a magical tribe sign. It's also going to have an alchemical sign. Those tribes are kind of what we described earlier and talked about earlier. Now, the letters can be used to make a name of a spirit. Also, each card will have a glyph. Now, each glyph can be used as part of creating the sigil. Now, this is a Sigil Oracle deck, so that as you're doing this reading, you're getting a name of a spirit, or being, a djinn, as I like to call it, in this magical working based on my work with the Order of Algol. And you will get a name that you can use to call upon to do what you need to be done, and will help you, lead you, and give you wisdom on the way, the things you need to do. Alchemical, I'll talk a little bit about that as I get the reading done. Okay, so and that's a little out of focus, but there are still the 8 piles. So what we're going to do a little different than normal. At this point, I'd usually choose one of the piles to go from, and then I'd further divide that out a little, so we'll end up being left with 4. Now, what we're going to do today, like I said, we're going to do a little special because this is an equinox, and this is an equaling and a balance. Part of the in-created function of this deck is a function of balance. So you have axes. So you have the axis of your image that you cast without and you cast within. This is an axis. So you have this which is without on half of it, and you have that which will fit in on the second half. And so you also have this axis here, which is growth. So you have gnosis and wealth, which is an internal or external growth. So what we're going to do, because it is the equinox, we're going to be taking one card from each of those 4 piles. So we want to figure out what image we need to cast without and within the next year, as we are on the equinox, or 6 months, which probably do one at both equinoxes. And we also want to figure out how we need to grow within and without. So I'm going to start with internal growth, gnosis, and I'm just going to kind of go through it. I'm going to pick one of these. Okay. I'll place them in the middle. And then we're going to go the bounce of that. I'm just going to kind of shuffle them a little. Point. And then we're going to go there. And as I started within on growth, I'm going to start without on image, on what image we need to cast into the world to create the magic of our will, the pure chaos of what we want. And this is the image we cast without into the world, the way we create the universe in the image that we want. So from this one, I pick one, and then we're the image we cast within. How do we need to grow ourself, our true ego, our true self? What do we need to cast our image within? Who do we need to become? And that's what we're going to pull from here. Now, I'm going to take all these other piles and put them to the side because those are no longer important to what we're doing right now. So they're all going to get put aside. Now we're going to focus on these four. Now what we're going to do, we're going to create a triangle with them. And this is going to give us our heart, our head, and our hands. We're going to have both hands, our left hand, our right hand, what we need to work on. I'll start over here. I'll actually start here, right hand, your head. And for people that are left-handed, start left hand too. Your head, and your left hand, and then the heart of the matter. Now, so, these are, we're supposed to see them all. I'm going to start turning over the first card. Okay. The first card in the name is going to be the Eye of Will. So there are three phases this deck is in, and that is which comes important from both a chaos magic standpoint and a Luciferian magic standpoint, which are belief, desire, and will. So desire is that first functioning ideal of wanting some change, because magic is an art and science of creating change in conformity with your will. So this is all about creating change. So you start out with desire, then you get to belief, which is the changing this mutable aspect of what you want, the change you want, and that's kind of goes between. Belief should not be this thing that is rooted in, like, I am this is what I am, this is what I believe. You need to be able to believe what you need to do for the magic as part of the chaos magic structure. It's something that gets structure and form, but needs to be changed when you need it. And finally, you come to your will. Your will has to be this solid function. So the Pentagon is that solid house of the will. So this Eye of Will, we have this Saturn energy, and then we also have the alchemical sulfur. Now, sulfur is a breaking down. So this is a breaking down old patterns, and it's also releasing energies. So for the next year, or the next 6 months at least, we need to start breaking down our limitations. We need to focus on breaking down those limitations. And the glyph is a triangle also, and it's the three-pointed triangle, and this is a structure, kind of becomes the triangle of art, or meant to be a circuitral triangle of art as the center of it. So this is, we have to be resolved to stand strong in our desire to break down old limitations the society placed on us. And then with our head, and that should be considered your active. This is your dominant we're starting with. So this is what you should actively be working on. This is what you put out into the world, your active self. So actively you need to work on breaking down those limitations we have. We don't really do with all this reverse or not. It's not as important because it's a matter of balance. So some things will put you out of balance and things will put you in balance. And that's where we got to look at is the alchemical working and desire, will, and belief, and how balanced we are. So we'll get to where our balance is when we get through the end. So the next card is going to be the B of belief. The square is the belief, and that's kind of makes a square of what's within your belief and what's outside of it. This is a structure of form, the belief, and that's why we bring the square for that. Now, it's a solar energy, and as I said, that's chaos magic, and that's also your will magic. That's the image you cast to the world without. So this, and it's Mercury, which is change, transformation. The alchemical mercury, which is change and transformation. So this speaks of a belief in your will you cast upon the world needs to change. So you need to change the way you believe that what you do magically changes the world. You need to realize what you do can change the world, that it will change the world, and you need to transform the way you interact with the world magically. This glyph is a interlocked triangles. This is a movement in a way. This is the two triangles moving through each other, and this should be seen as a movement. So that's why this is a movement of your will. And this is what your thought, this is in your head of the spirit, is the thought form, the understanding of changing the way you believe that you interact with the world. Next, we come to the left hand. Now, this the other was the active, the right hand is active, the left hand's what you need to bring in. This, we have another belief. This is Sia belief. It's kind of got a little bit of a glare here, but that is war. This is Mars, and we get another alchemical mercury. So this is some more transformation. So you need, as you're receiving energy, you need to the will of your perfection of self. You need to receive the transmission of energy, because the mercury was the transmission of God. So this is receiving that will to perfect yourself, to perfect your will. So you need to get this energy and bring in this energy to perfect your will, to perfect yourself. The Book of the Law says, find you a fortress, or find you an island and fortify with injuries or war. And so we kind of get that from the war, is this fortifying of self. So this is a transformation and fortification, and by your will stand strong that I will receive the knowledge, the energy, to transform myself and perfect myself, to perfect my will. And finally, the heart of the matter. That's some more will here. This is very strong will. So this is what I spoke about earlier of balance. So this has no desire to it. This is a little bit of belief, but it's really strong about will. Now, what can happen wrong, why being out of balance with will becomes a problem, when we look at this, is the main problem with that is sometimes when you're focused on what you desire for the world and what you desire to change, and you're just focused on this is my will and this is my desire for change, sometimes you lose sight of what others may want. So this is a little bit off balance in the fact that it has no desire. This is just pure will almost, with a little bit of belief. Now, this particular card is going to be Jupiter Blue, and this is some more Mercury. So also, the other thing we have here that we're lacking is the crystallization, which is salt. This is all sulfur and mercury. So we just keep transforming, and we just keep willing ourselves to transform and keep changing. And this is the M will. And so from this, let's look at names. So names become a thing. I got my little notepad here. Take off this. So we're going to have a I, and will. I do that just so I can kind of keep track of what I'm doing real quick. I will. There's some other stuff I can do later, but and B and C and M. That's will. And there's some stuff I'm going to do. We're reaching that 15-minute mark, so I'm going to stop now. I'm going to do a second video in a moment. So get a hold of me for part 2 in just a moment. All right.